Joe Rogan had Bob Gymlan on his podcast 2 months ago, and he shared his theory on what he thinks Bigfoot might be, which is really great to hear because it's exactly what the Bible alludes to, and it's what we're seeing with the fact that just UFOs, Bigfoot, all this paranormal stuff is connected to the spiritual interdimensional reality that we live in. So let's have a listen.
I have a very strange take on this, and I know it's going to sound super stupid to anybody who's like cynical, pragmatist, but just bear with me for a moment. I think the boundaries between this dimension and other ones are permeable, and I have a feeling things can cross through them. And I have a feeling we are like, if an ant is like, I have leafcutter ants in my yard. Pretty wild. So cool to watch them. It sucks because they kill all your trees, but so cool to watch this long train of these incredible little beings carrying around these giant pieces of leaf that they cut off. And they're all going into their little house, but you wave your hand over them, they have no idea you're there. Like whatever senses they have, it does not seem to detect threats from things above. They don't seem to be worried.
Right.
You know, they don't perceive us.
Well, they're mission oriented.
Yeah.
And we are too. So if something is happening that's beyond our mission, I think it's hard to perceive it.
I think there's things that exist that are not perceivable.
Oh, I'm 1,000,000% in that camp too.
And I think there's heightened states of consciousness that people achieve under duress, extreme stress, fear. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of them happen at nighttime. I think nighttime, it automatically fills people with a certain sense of anxiety and fear because you don't know what's out there when you're, especially in the woods at nighttime. And I think in those times when your mind reaches this unusual chemical state, you occasionally can access these other realities. And I think
This is completely true. This is biblically true as well with spirituality and spiritual doors. It's like when someone plays with the Ouija board. I played with the Ouija board in my past when I wasn't saved. I played with a couple people when it didn't work. I think these people didn't believe, or they actually believed in Jesus Christ potentially, and it was just like throwing the whole thing off. Something along these lines. But when you get a group of people who believe in something, just like when you're in the woods at night and you're looking and you're expecting and you just have like this expectation of like an opening to the spiritual realm or to something else going on, that's when these things start to happen. This is so true. This is why people go to UFO hotspots, or they go to certain areas or Bigfoot hotspots and they go looking for these things. They have the expectation, and the spiritual entities that these things masquerade as come into our reality to frighten people, and sometimes even worse, and oftentimes leading them down a lifetime path of trying to understand what this thing is and discounting the Bible, when in reality the Bible really points to these things being a spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places that break out of theirs and into our reality.
I think that's where Bigfoot is real. I know it sounds goofy.
No, I mean, that's...
And I don't think you can go find it. That's why Finding Bigfoot is on like season 80 and they haven't found it.
Well, but see, even if it was real, I wouldn't expect them to find it either.
No, that show's just goofy.
Or even if it was flesh and blood. It's funny you would say what you said, because when I first started my channel, I was very flesh and blood type. I thought it was a very real thing, like just a bear or anything else in the woods. But a lot of commenters said, though I appreciate Bob's take on that, he will get to the woo-woo side or the spiritual side. And I was like, I am not, and I'm like halfway there already. But I don't think that I don't think that the spiritualism can be separated from anything.
This is just very clear on the reality of what it is. How many thousands and thousands of sightings of this Bigfoot, big hairy creature entity have people seen? But yet there's people who are constantly in the woods, people who live in very rural areas, hunters who hike back all the time into the deep woods, people who go fishing in the deep woods. There's so many people who go out exploring and they never capture a good image of this thing. The only one that we have is really the first one ever given from Northern California, the Patterson-Gimlin film. The fact that this thing is never caught and it comes into our reality and it's just gone the next second. That's what everyone says. And it's the same thing that happens with UFOs. It's no coincidence that all these paranormal things, it's there 1 second and then gone the next. It's breaking into our reality and then going back away. And I think eventually, as the Bible starts to play out more and more, we will see these things coming into our reality more and more. And they may even create or somehow access a permanent residence in our physical realm.
How so? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think we're spiritual beings, and I think that we're interacting with, like, kind of like the Force from Star Wars. Like, I believe reality is permeable to an extent. Yeah, I mean, the things that we see with our eyes and feel that we touch, there's more than that.
It's a fraction.
Right.
It's a fraction of what's going on. I think so too. I think I think that's probably the source of whatever psychic phenomenon that is real. That's not and just a bunch of people, a bunch of hucksters robbing people. I think there's some sort of telepathic connection that people share occasionally. And I think it's an emerging aspect of human consciousness that will probably one day be as normal as hearing. I think we're just emerging from the primal. And I think also in the primal, they probably have it. They probably have it in a different way. Like animals are tuned in a very bizarre way. They just know things sometimes. And
this is kind of all connected really to the same thing, which is why they're really talking about it, whether they know it or not, but it's the spiritual aspect of the reality that we're in. It's kind of like when you walk into a building or into a house or into a certain area and you just get that bad vibe. You go through a certain part of the city and it's just like you get heavy, you get anxiety or whatever it might be. That's because there's something spiritual happening in that area. The Bible tells us there's principalities and powers in the heavenly places and that sometimes they rule over specific areas. And that's why when you're going to these places, you sometimes feel that. That's why when sometimes you catch the eye of someone else and it's like you look at the same time or something along these lines, it's a spiritual thing going on. There's stuff going on in the spiritual realm all around us at all times. And something within us knows that, our soul or our spirit. And that's kind of, I believe, what he's referring to here.
you don't know why they know things. You're not even saying, like, my dog sometimes knows when we're going to go for a run.
Right.
He just knows it.
I've always been fascinated by how so many animals seem to innately know that we can help them.
Yes.
And they shouldn't think that.
Right.
You know, historically, we are not the helper of animals.
Right.
And be it dolphins or seals or whatever.
Or deer even.
Deer, yeah, they're just like, I'm hurt, help. And it's like, shouldn't they be afraid of the predator?
Deer have tried to contact people to get one of their friends free from barbed wire.
No.
Yeah.
I believe this can be explained in the Bible as well, because really the Bible is the Word of God, everything in it. The Bible tells us that Jesus, everything was made through him and by him. And so everything going on in the world around us can really be found and explained in the Bible one way or another. And so when this is happening, we're told in Genesis that man has dominion over animals. And we're told in Proverbs to be kind to animals. So it's a history of God with the animals, of course, with God creating mankind with the animals. And we, of course, were in the Garden of Eden with all the animals living in unity. The Bible even says in the book of Romans that all of creation cries out for Jesus Christ returning because they are groaning as well. In the Garden of Eden, they weren't killing each other or dying of old age or diseases. Everything was in perfect harmony in that moment. And so they cry out for the same thing that we cry out for, which is the return of Jesus Christ. And so they all know it, and somehow there's a connection between everything that's living, and really that connection is God. And I believe that's why these animals sometimes come to us for help.
Yeah, there's something weird. There's something weird going on that is not just as simple as we're the dominant species, we have language, we figured out consciousness, we write books. No, I think there's another thing that we just don't. It's not there yet. It's just like the original cavemen had some grunts, and those grunts became words, and now those words become huge libraries filled with books that people have written. And I think that's what's going on with human consciousness. And I think there's just got to be some reason why this Bigfoot thing has been going on for so goddamn long. I think it's an interdimensional existence. I think whatever that thing is, I think it comes back and forth. And that's why I don't find anything.
Yeah.
That 100% is the case. That has to be the case. So many people see this Bigfoot entity and then it's there 1 second and then gone the next. Think about how many people are flying over these areas and people are not getting footage of these things. So many people in this day and age, as people are enjoying the outdoors more and more and going out there and having to go farther and farther to get into more desolate and isolated places. And no one is capturing these things. Anyone who encounters them sees it for a moment, then it's gone. Same with UFOs, same with every other cryptid, paranormal type of thing. Comes into our reality and breaks out. The Bible tells us this, Ephesians 6:12. Spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places. These things come in and out. And then in the book of Revelation, we're told supernatural power, signs, and wonders are going to be coming in the last days with great delusions. It's that these things are going to come back and make their presence fully known. You know, some people believe that CERN is trying to break into that reality. We know in Revelation 9, a bottomless pit will be opened with scorpion-like monsters coming out. And in the end, it's got to be connected to these interdimensional beings, just this other spiritual realm that hasn't fully came into our reality, but it's trying to, and every once in a while it breaks through, whether it's through a person's will and their spirit, or something else. But it seems most likely that that's probably what's causing the breakthrough.
I mean, that's, as I said, I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
Getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, because as I said earlier, like, to me, the flesh and blood ape hypothesis is not as impractical as everyone says.
Well, it used to be a real thing for sure. The problem is the size of it. You know, you can't really hide a 10-foot gorilla.
Why?
Why? Because too many trail cams, too many campers, hikers, hunters especially.
Well, it's not like people don't see it. People see it all the time.
Hunters don't see them. No, but my friends, I have a lot of friends that are like long-range backpack hunters. These guys will go 26, 27 miles into the forest with no access roads. They just hike out.
But do hunters not see them, or do hunters not say they saw it?
No, I don't know anybody who's seen them.
No.
They'll tell you all kinds of other wild, but they would tell you if they saw it. None of them believe that I know, but they are wary about animals. You know, there's real threats out there. There's grizzlies, there's wolves, there's mountain lions. Those are the things they're really worried about, and those are the things that they see. And I've had friends that have had encounters with them, and even those encounters seem in some sort of weird way spiritual.
That's really what it all points to at the end of the day, is that these are spiritual experiences. Way too many people have this experience with no physical evidence for this to be any type of physical thing that is actually existing in our reality at all times. People might have a glimpse of this or a little piece of that or whatever, but we know that even spiritual things break into the physical reality as well. There's a lot of miracles that have been documented by people. There are even demonic attacks, like Tucker Carlson just talked about, physical scratches on his body. A lot of people have mentioned that. The spiritual breaks into the physical realm every once in a while, and I think that that's exactly what we're seeing with these different experiences. The Bible says that there are supernatural things that happen in the world, both good and bad, and that they will increase into the final days. And I think the fact that more people are seeing this is becoming more of a reality, just goes to show that these are the times we're heading into. And of course, Jesus Christ is the Lord and the Bible is true. And the fact the Bible explains these things and we're seeing them now more and more in so many different ways really proves how it's the absolute truth and from the one true God. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope and pray you're well. Thanks for watching, and God bless.